do you choose the right NAICS code for your business? Well, that's exactly what we're going to decode during today's training. We're going to look at what an NAICS code is, how it works, what it's used for, and how you can make sure you have the right code listed in the right places to radically improve your chances of getting approved for credit, financing, and being able to get the most money at the best terms. We got a lot to cover, so let's dive in. So what's an NAICS code? Well, an NAICS code is basically an identifier that's used by a lot of entities and a lot of organizations to be able to determine what industry you're truly in. So this is used by the SEC, it's used by the government, it's used by the IRS to really get a gauge of how many businesses and how many sectors are in each one of these different types of business sectors. So for example, the IRS uses NAICS codes to compare the expenses you claim to others in your industry to be able to trigger red flags. It's actually how they trigger audits. Now, I'm not an accountant, this isn't accounting advice, but that is how it works. They're going to look at a trucking company's expenses, they're going to compare it to the industry norm, and if it's basically too high, too low, or if it's out of sorts from what the norm is, that's what triggers a red flag, and that's typically what will trigger an audit. Now, lenders and credit issuers also look at NAICS codes to determine if a company is in a high-risk industry. And a high-risk industry could either mean that you're prohibited from getting financing from that source altogether, or that you'll face more stringent underwriting guidelines. And that means that it's harder to get approved, and you'll typically get approved for worse terms. Look, I can go on and on about the insurance you pay being based on NAICS and many others, but having the right industry code for your industry is essential to being able to be seen the way you want to be seen by all of these entities, all of these organizations, including lenders and credit issuers wanting to give you more money. So how do you determine your NAICS code? Well, all you have to do is go to NAICS.com, 100% free to do a search and figure out exactly what your code may be. And you have to be careful here. For example, somebody asked me the other day, hey, what's the NAICS code for transportation? Well, that's the problem with not knowing your specific code, is that if you look at the NAICS category for transportation, you'll find there's 100 different subcategories within that one category. This is why you really need to know exactly what your NAICS code is. Because if you were to walk in to tell a bank you're in the transportation category, then what's going to happen is they're going to choose one of those 100 subcategories to determine what your real NAICS is. And by the way, if you make them choose, they're almost always going to make the decision putting you into a higher risk category. So we don't want lenders to choose, credit issuers, IRS. We want to make the decision of the NAICS that we have. And in order to do so, we need to go to NAICS.com. We need to find the best designator of the category that we are, and that needs to be used as our NAICS code. Now, we also need to avoid high-risk NAICS codes. We can easily do a Google search for high-risk NAICS and find lists of codes that are seen as high-risk by lenders, credit issuers, the IRS, amongst many others. And we want to try to avoid being put in one of those categories. We want to avoid being in one of those NAICS categories. Now, I don't mean you need to lie and mislead about what category you're in. What I'm saying is that oftentimes you could be one of three categories. Let's look at Credit Suite, for example. You could easily say with content like this that we're an educational company. You could also say, since we deal with credit and financing, that we're a financial services company. Or since we have a business finance suite which maps out the exact steps to succeed with building business credit, improving fundability, and getting financing, you could also say we're a software company. Which of the categories do we choose? Well, we choose to be a software company because financial services is seen as high risk. Okay, and also education doesn't give us the best multiple if we want our business to be worth the most amount of money. So those are the kind of things that you want to factor into your decisions. What gives you the best multiple if you ever go to sell or exit the business, but what also puts you in a lower risk category. And if you, like us, can be in one of multiple categories, then make sure you stay away from those high risk categories you could find in that search that indicates all the categories that are seen as high risk. Now that you know your NAICS code, where do you put it? How do you use it? Well, first of all, if you go backwards, you want to make sure that your tax returns all reflect that same NAICS code. You want to tell your accountant when they file the taxes the exact industry you're in by saying the exact name of the NAICS code and the actual NAICS code itself. You also want to make sure if you have business credit reports established that the business credit reporting agencies know what your NAICS code is. So you can pull your business credit reports, it'll tell you right away the NAICS categories that you're in. If it's wrong, you want to go in and update with all three reporting agencies, major ones, Experian, Equifax, and D&B, telling them the proper NAICS and make sure they're reflecting the correct information. Make sure your bank knows as well. Your bank is part of an overall system where all banks openly share information. It's called the Small Business Financial Exchange. You want to make sure they have the correct information so that same information gets passed to all the other major banks as well. By the way, the business credit reporting agencies are vendors of the Small Business Financial Exchange. So they are members of the SBFE. They're the ones that take that data and put it out to the world, which is why you want to make sure banks and the credit bureaus have the proper correct reporting information. Now, once you've done so, well, then you've got all the authorities that have the correct information. Then you just need to make sure that when you apply for loans, when you apply for credit lines, that you're applying under the correct NAICS code. When they ask what industry you're in, put the exact verbiage of your NAICS code and the actual NAICS code itself, so there's no question of the exact industry you're in. If you've done this correctly, well, now everybody sees that you're actually in the industry that you're really in. Your NAICS is accurate. So important for so many reasons. For example, the business credit reporting agencies have comparison scores that compare you to others in your industry. Big problem if they're comparing you against others in an industry that you're not even in. So making sure you take these steps will make sure that you have the highest scores and make sure you're seen as high risk, radically improving your chances of getting approved for credit and financing. So to learn more about selecting the right NAICS code and addressing other fundability factors that lenders and credit issuers look at, go to the link in our bio. There you'll be able to find tools and resources, including our Fundability mini course, which will give you everything you need to know to make sure your fundability is set up the right way, where lenders and credit issuers want to approve you for the most money at the best terms. And if you got value from this training, make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure you give us a call for a free finance assessment. On this finance assessment, we'll look at these fundability foundational aspects like your NAICS code, make sure they're done the right way to give you a big chance of getting approved for credit financing and being able to get it at the best terms. Plus, we'll also help you get your business credit reports, make sure those are updated and accurate at no cost. We're the only place that you're going to be able to get business credit reports without paying for them. We'll even do a finance qualification to tell you all the funding you can get right now. To get that consultation, give us a call at 877-600-2487 or schedule online at creditsuite.com/consult. Did you get value from this training? If so, make sure you like and subscribe and keep your eye out for our next training where we talk about more cool ways to get the money you need to start and grow your business.